The war room smelled of fear and expensive cologne gone stale. 3 a.m. in Seoul, and Kang Jae-won watched his empire die in real time across 12 glowing screens. Red numbers bled downward. Warning messages flashed like death knells. 6 hours until total system collapse. 6 hours until $1 billion evaporated into the digital void. The 100th tech expert, some hotshot from Berlin with 3 degrees and trembling hands, backed toward the door, his face pale as moonlight. "Mr. Kang, I can't. This attack, it's not normal. Can't. It's like the system is alive, adapting to everything we throw at it. Whoever designed this wants you destroyed." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. I can't help you." Jae-won didn't move, didn't blink, just lifted his whiskey glass in a mock salute as the expert fled. The door clicked shut. Silence swallowed the room. 100 experts. Americans, Japanese, Germans, Chinese, the best money could buy. All of them failed, all of them terrified. And now, Jae-won sat alone in the darkness, watching everything he'd built crumble pixel by pixel. He raised the glass to his lips. Crash. His fist had moved on its own, shattering the crystal against the wall. Amber liquid dripped down expensive wallpaper like tears he'd never shed. "Damn it," he whispered to the empty room. In the hallway outside, a shadow froze mid-step. Amarachi Okafor gripped her cleaning cart, heart hammering against her ribs. She'd learned to be invisible in this house. Silent footsteps, downcast eyes, present but never seen. That's how Maid survived in the home of a man like Kang Jae-won. But that sound, another crash. Heavier, something larger breaking. Her instinct screamed, "Walk away. Not your business. Not your problem." But her feet wouldn't move. She'd seen him earlier that evening, tie loosened, jaw clenched, staring at those screens with an expression she recognized. Desperation, wearing a mask of control. Her hand reached for the doorknob before her mind could stop it. She should have kept walking, should have pretended she heard nothing. But the crash that followed wasn't glass breaking. It was the sound of a man who'd run out of options. And somehow Amara knew. She was about to become his last one. If you're watching from Seoul, Lagos, New York, or anywhere in between, drop your city in the comments. And before we continue, hit that like button, because what this maid is about to do will shock you. Trust me, you won't see the twist coming. 3 years earlier. Lagos, Nigeria. The internet cafe on Balogun Street buzzed with life, gamers shouting, printers whirring, the sticky sweet smell of chin-chin from the vendor outside. In the corner, hunched over a borrowed laptop, Amarachi Okafor typed like her future depended on it, because it did. "Amara, this is brilliant." Chisholm leaned over her shoulder, his breath warm against her cheek. Her mentor, her fiancé, her everything. "This security protocol, it's unhackable. You're going to change everything." She'd smiled then, exhausted but elated. 2 years of work. Hundreds of sleepless nights teaching herself to code in a country where girls like her weren't supposed to dream that big. But she'd done it. Created something beautiful. Something valuable. "We'll present it together next month," Chisholm had said, kissing her temple. "Partner to partner. You and me against the world." 3 weeks later, he disappeared. With her code, her research, her digital signature forged on documents selling her creation to the highest bidder. The tech community called her a liar when she tried to reclaim her work, called her delusional, a bitter ex making accusations. Chisholm was the established programmer, the man with credentials. Who would believe some self-taught girl from a Lagos internet cafe? So Amara did the only thing she could. She ran. Present day, Seoul, South Korea. The alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m, and Amara's hand slapped it silent before her eyes fully opened. Her studio apartment in Itaewon was smaller than most people's closets. A mattress on the floor, hot plate in the corner, clothes hanging on a wire strung between walls. But it was hers, paid for by 2 jobs and 18-hour days. She checked her phone. A message from her mother's nurse in Lagos. "Your mother had a good day. The new medication is helping. God bless you." Amara exhaled slowly, pressing the phone to her chest. This was why. Every aching muscle, every sleepless night, every moment she made herself invisible. It was all for Mama. By 6 a.m, she was on the bus to Gangnam, watching Seoul wake up through smudged windows. By 6:45, she was in the service entrance of Kang Jae-won's mansion, tying her hair back, pulling on gloves that hid the calluses on her fingers. 8 months she'd worked here. 8 months of cleaning a house larger than her entire neighborhood back home. 8 months of watching Korea's most feared businessman treat his staff like furniture. But Amara watched everything. She noticed how Jae-won checked his phone obsessively during meetings, always the same contact name, Min Seo. How his jaw tightened when his executives called him boss, versus when they called him by name. How he took his coffee black at dawn but with sugar after midnight, which meant he'd been awake too long and was running on fumes. She noticed because noticing kept her alive in a world where one mistake could get her fired, or worse. Today, she moved through the mansion's west wing, dusting surfaces that barely needed dusting. Through the open door of his home office, she saw it, a framed photo on his desk, a young woman with Jae-won's sharp features but softer eyes. Both of them smiling, a rare, genuine expression she'd never seen on his face. His sister, the other staff had whispered, disappeared 6 months ago. He's been different since. Amara understood that kind of loss, the way absence carved holes in your chest. She was wiping down the hallway mirror when she saw him arrive, black suit perfectly pressed despite the hour, eyes hidden behind dark glasses even indoors. His security team flanked him like shadows. Amara bowed her head, becoming invisible. He walked past without acknowledging her existence. But she remembered the one time, 3 months ago during an all-night crisis, when she'd brought him coffee without being asked. He'd looked up, surprised, and said 2 words that shouldn't have mattered, but somehow did. Thank you. She'd replayed that moment for weeks, analysed it like code she couldn't quite crack. Wondered if she'd imagined the exhaustion in his voice, the fleeting humanity before the mask snapped back into place. Now, hours later, standing outside his war room at 3 a.m. with her hand on the doorknob, Amara realised the truth. Kang Jae-won was a mafia boss, a criminal. A man who'd built an empire on blood and fear, but he was also alone, just like her. And loneliness recognised loneliness, even across an impossible divide. She turned the handle and pushed the door open. The door swung open, and Amara's breath caught in her throat. Jae-won stood in the centre of his war room like a man possessed, his suit jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. His laptop lay shattered on the floor. A monitor sparked where his fist had connected with the screen. Blood dripped from his knuckles onto imported marble. Get out! His voice was arctic, deadly. But Amara's eyes had already found the remaining screens, and the lines of code scrolling across them froze her in place. That structure, those nested loops, the recursive algorithm that folded back on itself like origami made of malice. Her body went cold. She knew that code. Sir. The word escaped before she could stop it. I know what this is. Jae-won's head snapped toward her, and for the first time in 8 months he truly saw her. His hand moved with practiced speed, pulling a pistol from his desk drawer. The barrel pointed directly at her chest. You have 30 seconds, he said, each word precise as a scalpel, to explain how a maid knows anything about my business. Amara's hands trembled, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. That's not random malware, Mr. Kang. That's personal revenge code, custom built. She pointed at the screen with a shaking finger. See that signature in the header comments? TR 2048. Tanner Reyes. His eyes narrowed, but the gun didn't waver. I'm listening. He's an American hacker, one of the best. 3 years ago, he bought stolen security software on the dark web, software that was mine before someone I trusted sold it. Her voice cracked on the last word. I've seen his signature before. I've studied every line of code he's written, trying to understand how he broke into systems using my creation. You're telling me, Jae-won said slowly, That you can fix what 100 experts couldn't? I'm telling you, I know how this man thinks. Amara's fear was transforming into something else, something that tasted like 3 years of swallowed rage. And yes, I can try. Silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. Then Jaewon lowered the gun. He pulled out his chair, gestured to his personal laptop, the only device not connected to the dying network. 1 hour, that's all you get. He opened a drawer, set a timer on his phone. If you're lying, you won't leave this room alive. His eyes locked onto hers. If you succeed, you've seen too much to ever leave my side. Do you understand what that means? Yes. Amara moved to the chair, her legs steadier than they had any right to be. I understand perfectly. Her fingers touched the keyboard, and muscle memory she'd tried to bury roared back to life. She stopped being a maid, started being who she was always meant to be. Jaewon watched her transformation with something approaching shock. The timid woman who'd pushed a cleaning cart disappeared, replaced by someone fierce and focused. Her fingers flew across keys, pulling up terminal windows, running diagnostic scripts he'd never seen before. He's using a polymorphic attack, she murmured, more to herself than him. Changes signature every 90 seconds. That's why your experts couldn't pin it down. Her eyes scanned lines of code at impossible speed. But polymorphic algorithms need a base structure, a genetic code they mutate from. And Tanner always uses the same one because he's arrogant. She pulled up file directories, traced data packets, rebuilt the attack vector backward like unwinding thread from a spool. Then she stopped. Her face went pale. What? Jaewon leaned over her shoulder. What did you find? This isn't just about your money. Amara's voice was barely a whisper. Look at the file paths. He's specifically targeting anything related to... She clicked through directories. Mincio, your sister. Every photo, every communication record, every location metadata. He's harvesting it all. Jaewon's hand slammed down beside the keyboard, making her jump. But when she looked up, his rage wasn't directed at her. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Can you stop it? I can. Her fingers resumed their dance. But Mr. Kang, there's something else you need to know. She pulled up network logs, highlighted access points. The attack came from outside, but someone opened the door from inside. Someone on your executive team gave Tanner Reyes the keys to your kingdom. 47 minutes later, the screens began stabilizing. Red warnings turned yellow, then green. System processes resumed, encrypted backups restored. The countdown clock stopped with 18 minutes to spare. Amara sagged back in the chair, exhausted, exhilarated, terrified. It's done. Your company is safe. But her expression was troubled as she navigated to a hidden communications folder. Sir, you need to see this. She pulled up encrypted emails, chat logs, wire transfer records. Your insider didn't just help with the attack. They've been coordinating with Tanner for months, planning this, and they're still here in your company right now. Jaewon stared at the evidence, his face an unreadable mask. Then he looked at her, truly looked at her, as if seeing a ghost. Who are you? Amara stood slowly, her legs unsteady. Someone who should have stayed invisible. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered without breaking eye contact with her. Yes? Boss. Director Han's smooth voice filled the silence. Just checking in. Is the problem solved? The board is asking questions. Jaewon's expression never changed. Under control, Han. I'll brief everyone in the morning. Excellent. I knew you'd find a solution. You always do. The call ended. Amara watched Jaewon's finger hover over Han's name in his contacts, saw the calculation in his eyes, the predatory stillness of a man who'd survived by trusting no one. From this moment, he said quietly, you don't exist as a maid anymore. You're mine, my asset, my weapon, and if you try to run... He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne mixed with blood from his split knuckles. I'll find you. Do we have an understanding, Amarachi Okafor? He'd learned her name. Yes, Mr. Kang, we have an understanding. Dawn broke over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, but Amara saw none of it. She sat on the edge of a bed that cost more than she'd earned in 6 months, wearing clothes that still had price tags attached. The guest room, no, her new room, was larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble bathroom, a closet filled with clothes in her exact size, delivered while she'd slept. If you could call 3 hours of anxiety-fueled unconsciousness sleep. A knock at the door made her jump. Come in. Jae-won entered, looking like he'd showered, changed, and conquered a small country before 7 a.m. His knuckles were bandaged. His eyes were sharp. We need to talk. He closed the door behind him. You're now my personal security consultant. You don't clean anymore, you don't leave this property, and you don't speak to anyone without my permission. Clear? Amara's throat tightened. Am I a prisoner? You're protected. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, tossed it on the bed beside her. $50,000, monthly, wired to any account you specify. She stared at the contract inside. More money than she'd seen in her life. Enough to get her mother the best treatment. Enough to finally breathe. Enough to make her question what she was selling besides her skills. What if I say no? Jae-won's smile was cold. You saw classified criminal data last night. You know too much, so your choices are work for me in luxury or... He didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. That's not a choice. No, he agreed. It's not, but I'm paying you like it is. By noon, Amara was in the war room, surrounded by screens and servers, with Jae-won's head of security teaching her the building's systems. By evening, she was analysing 3 years of financial records, communication logs, and security footage, looking for a ghost. Jae-won worked beside her, his presence a constant weight. He spoke little, but she felt him watching her, not with suspicion anymore, but with something she couldn't name. Here. She highlighted a pattern in the data. CFO Park has been moving money through shell companies, small amounts but consistent. CTO Lim's code commits match the timing of security vulnerabilities, and Director Han, she pulled up travel records. He's been to Singapore 6 times in 4 months, same hotel where Tanner Reyes was spotted. Jae-won leaned closer, studying her work. If you had to bet your life, and you are, who's the traitor? Amara's pulse hammered. She thought of Chisholm's betrayal. How the person you trust most can destroy you. CTO Lim. His technical access is total, and these commits, they're deliberately sloppy, like he wanted to leave himself a back door. Then we set a trap. Jae-won's voice was silk over steel. We leak false information through Lim's channels, something irresistible, and see who bites. They worked until midnight, crafting the perfect bait. Fake coordinates for Mincio, buried in encrypted files only the CTO could access. Amara's eyes burned with exhaustion. She rubbed them, and suddenly there was food beside her. Real food, still warm. Jae-won had brought it himself, not called a servant. You need to eat. She stared at him. Why did you hire me? Really? He was quiet for a long moment. Why did you help me? You could have walked away. Because I know what it's like when someone destroys everything you built. The words came out raw. When they take your dreams and weaponize them. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Even on a monster like me. Amara looked at him, truly looked, and saw past the armour. You're not a monster. You're just protected by a monster's armour. There's a difference. Something flickered in his eyes. His hand moved toward hers on the keyboard, close enough that she could feel the heat of his skin. Then he pulled back. Eat. We have a long night ahead. Hours later, they sat in darkness, watching security feeds from Valkyrie Tech's headquarters. Waiting. Tell me about her, Amara said softly. Min Seo. Jae-won's jaw tightened, but then, surprisingly, he spoke. She was 8 when I joined the syndicate. I was 12. Orphans don't have many choices. His voice was distant. I did things, became things, so she wouldn't have to. When she turned 20, she said she wanted out, wanted a normal life. You let her go. I helped her disappear. New identity, new country, money to start over. His hand clenched. Then 6 months ago, her calls stopped. Her accounts went dark. And these hackers, they were looking for her location in my files. Someone wants her, and I don't know if she's hiding or already gone. Amara's heart cracked. He wasn't just fighting for his company. He was fighting for the only person he'd ever loved. We'll find her, she promised. Before he could respond, the security feed flickered. Movement in Valkyrie Tech's server room. 2 a.m. But it wasn't CTO Lim on the screen. It was Director Han, his trusted right-hand man, accessing Jaewon's private server. And he wasn't alone. 4 armed men in tactical gear flanked him. Amara's blood turned to ice. They're not here for data. Jaewon was already moving, pulling a gun from his desk, checking the chamber. His phone buzzed with alerts. Perimeter breach, multiple hostiles, communications jammed. They're here for us. He grabbed her hand, his grip iron strong. Listen carefully. We're going to the safe room. You stay behind me. Whatever happens next, you survive. Do you understand? Jaewon, do you understand? She nodded, her hand finding his. And together they ran into the darkness. The safe room was buried 3 floors beneath Jaewon's mansion, accessible only through a passage hidden behind a false wall in his wine cellar. Steel reinforced, soundproof, equipped with enough surveillance equipment to monitor every corner of his empire. Amara's hands shook as she watched the security feeds. Director Han moved through Valkyrie Tech's headquarters like he owned it, because in a way, he did. 2 years as Jaewon's most trusted advisor, 2 years of access to everything, and now his betrayal played out in high definition across a dozen screens. He's been planning this for months, Jaewon said, his voice devoid of emotion. But Amara saw his knuckles whiten around the edge of the desk. Look at the timestamps. Every security update, every protocol change. He positioned himself perfectly. Then another figure entered the frame. Amara's world stopped. No! The word ripped from her throat. No, that's not. It can't be. Chisholm walked beside Han like they were old friends, gesturing at servers, laughing at something Han said. Her Chisholm, her betrayer, here, in Seoul, in this. You know him? Jaewon's voice cut through her shock. The truth spilled out like poison she'd been holding in for 3 years. Chisholm Obi, my fiancé, my mentor. Her voice cracked. The man who stole my code and destroyed my life. He sold my software to Tanner Reyes on the dark web, and Tanner sold it to... Her eyes widened with horrified understanding. To Han. Director Han has been using my creation to infiltrate your systems for 2 years. Jaewon's expression hardened into something terrifying. Your ex-fiancé is working with my right-hand man to destroy me using stolen software you created. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't... I know. His hand found her shoulder, steadying. If you were part of this, you wouldn't have saved my company. You would have let it burn. The intercom crackled to life. Jaewon. Han's voice filled the safe room, smooth as oil. I know you're listening. I've known about your panic room since the day you hired me, so let's skip the games. On screen, Han looked directly at a camera, smiling. I don't want your company. Valkyrie Tech can rot for all I care. What I want is what you're hiding, what you've been hiding for 6 months. Jaewon went still as stone. Your sister contacted me, you know, 6 months ago. Brave little Mincio, tired of running, tired of hiding. She had information about the Serpent Syndicate's leaders. Names, locations, bank accounts, proof of every crime they've committed for 2 decades. Han's smile widened. She wanted immunity, protection, a normal life. You're lying, Jaewon whispered. But you hid her too well, didn't you? Changed her identity, scrambled her digital footprint, made her a ghost. Very thorough. Han's expression hardened. So I'll make this simple. Give me Mincio's location, or I give you to the syndicate. They've wanted you dead for years. The orphan who got too big, too powerful, too independent. I'll be a hero, and you'll be a corpse. Amara watched Jaewon's face, saw the war raging behind his eyes. You tracked her calls, didn't you? His voice was quiet, dangerous. When you recovered my data last night, you found her. Amara's stomach dropped. She had. Buried in encrypted backups, she'd found outgoing calls to a Busan number. She'd noted it, moved on, forgotten in the chaos. She's in Busan, Amara whispered. A district called Haeundae, but I wouldn't. I know. Jaewon turned to face her fully, and something shifted in his expression. Something that looked like trust. You could have sold that information the moment you found it. Could have contacted Han, bargained for your freedom. You didn't. Their eyes locked, and the wall between them, the impossible distance between a mafia boss and a maid, cracked down the middle. 1 hour, Jaewon. Han's voice turned cold. Or your maid dies first. Yes, I know exactly who she is. Amarachi Okafor, the genius who outsmarted Tanner. And Chisholm here has very creative plans for her. He's been waiting 3 years to teach her a lesson about stealing his credit. On screen, Chisholm waved at the camera, blew a kiss. Amara felt bile rise in her throat. Jaewon's jaw clenched, and she saw him calculating, measuring odds, counting bullets and bodies and acceptable losses. Don't. Her hand gripped his arm. Don't sacrifice your sister for me. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand that she's family. Tears burned Amara's eyes. I'd give anything, everything, to save my mother. 1 more day, 1 more hour with her. Don't lose your chance to save Minseo. Please, I'm nobody. You're not nobody. His voice was fierce. Not to me. Not anymore. The words hung between them like a confession. Then Jaewon did something that shocked her. He smiled. Cold. Calculating. Lethal. We're not giving them anything. We're going on offense. He pulled a phone from his pocket. Sleek, black, nothing like his regular device. A phone she'd never seen before. His fingers moved across the screen, typing rapidly. My sister isn't helpless, and she's not in Busan. Amara stared. What? Minseo is the best hacker I know. Better than Tanner Reyes. Better than you, no offense. His smile turned genuine, almost proud. She's the one who taught me never to trust anyone. Who do you think showed me how to build Valkyrie Tech's security systems? Understanding crashed over Amara like a wave. She's not missing. She's been hunting the same people hunting her, gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for them to make a move. He held up the phone. She planted those Busan calls herself, false trails, bait for rats. The phone buzzed. A message appeared. Brother. About time. Is this the maid? Jaewon typed back. Yes. We need you. On my way. ETA 15 minutes. Don't die before I get there. He looked at Amara, and in his eyes she saw something she'd never expected to find in a man like Kang Jaewon. Hope. I think it's time you met my sister. No. Amara's voice was steel. Whatever you're planning, we do it together. Jaewon checked his gun, loaded a fresh magazine with practiced efficiency. That's not how this works. Then make it work differently. Amara! We stay together. We fight together. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. You don't get to sacrifice yourself and call it protection. His eyes softened, just for a moment, before the armor snapped back. My plan is simple. I surrender myself to Han as a distraction. You escape through the underground tunnels to the east exit. Minseo will meet you there. Together, you two. No. We'll have time to coordinate a counterattack while Han wastes time interrogating me. I said no. Jaewon moved faster than she could react. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek, and the tenderness in that touch broke something inside her chest. You've given me something I forgot existed, he whispered. Hope. The possibility that maybe I'm not just the monster they made me. Don't take it away by dying here. Jaewon, He kissed her forehead, soft, reverent, final, and shoved her backward into the tunnel entrance. The steel door slammed shut between them before she could scream. "No!" Amara threw herself against the door, pounding with both fists. "J1, don't you dare do this!" Through the reinforced steel, she heard the safe room door open. Heard his voice, cold and commanding. "Han, let's talk." Then silence. Amara ran. Tears blurred her vision as she sprinted through tunnels that smelled of earth and concrete. The phone J1 had given her was clutched in her shaking hand, its screen the only light in the darkness. Behind her, she'd left the first man who'd seen her as more than a maid, more than a failed programmer, more than invisible. He'd seen her, and now he was going to die for it. The tunnel ended at a ladder. She climbed, pushed open a heavy grate, emerged in an alley 3 blocks from the mansion. Rain had started falling, cold, bitter, soul crying with her. Her fingers found Minseo's number. "Please answer. Please, 1 ring, 2. "Who is this?" A woman's voice, sharp, suspicious, nothing like her brother's measured tone. "My name is Amarachi Okafor." The words tumbled out between sobs. "Your brother is about to die for me, and I need your help to save him." Silence stretched for an eternity. Then, "The Nigerian maid. He told me about you." Amara's heart stuttered. "He talks about me? Constantly. It's annoying." But Minseo's voice softened, losing its edge. "He said you're brilliant, brave, that you remind him there's still good in the world." A pause. "Also that you make terrible coffee, but we can work on that later." Despite everything, Amara almost laughed. "Okay," Minseo said. "All business now. Let's go get my stupid brother." Minseo's apartment was a fortress disguised as a modest flat in Hongdae. Servers hummed, 6 monitors displayed scrolling code, empty coffee cups formed a small mountain on the desk, and Minseo herself, petite, fierce, with her brother's sharp eyes and a sleeve of tattoos running down her left arm, worked at a speed that made Amara's jaw drop. "There!" Minseo pulled up security feeds from Valkyrie Tech. They moved him to the roof. Classic intimidation tactic. On screen, J1 knelt in the rain, hands bound behind his back. Blood dripped from his split lip. Han circled him like a shark, while Chisholm stood to the side, filming everything on his phone. "Where is she, J1? Han's voice crackled through the audio feed. "Dead." J1 spat blood. "Your hacker friend killed her when she found out he was working for you. Congratulations. You'll never get what you want." Han's fist connected with his jaw. Liar. Another blow. Then another. Amara couldn't watch, but couldn't look away. "He's not breaking," Minseo observed clinically. "My brother is many things, but weak isn't one of them." A laptop on the desk chimed. Tanner Reyes appeared on screen via video call, his face pixelated but his smirk unmistakable. "He's lying, Han. The girl is alive. I'm tracking her phone signal now." Tanner's fingers flew across a keyboard. "She's in Hongdae, with someone whose digital signature I recognize. Hello, Minseo. Long time no talk." Minseo cursed in Korean, then English, then what might have been Mandarin. On the roof feed, Han pulled out his phone. "Get me the Serpent Syndicate. Tell them I have a gift for them. Tell them Kang Jae-won is ready to come home." To the side, Chisholm was pulling up code on his tablet. Amara's code, her stolen algorithms. "And when this is done, I want public credit for this software. It's going to make us billions." Amara stared at the man she once loved and felt nothing but contempt. "We have 20 minutes, Minseo said quietly, "before Syndicate enforcers arrive. Once they do, my brother is dead. No negotiation, no mercy, just blood." She turned to face Amara fully. "So tell me, Amarachi Okafor, can you hack faster than you've ever hacked in your life?" Amara wiped her tears, cracked her knuckles, pulled a chair up to the second terminal. "Watch me." The 2 women worked side by side, united by a common enemy, and the man they both loved. Amara, fueled by cold fury and adrenaline, was a force. Mincio was precision personified. They were a perfect, terrifying partnership. "My brother never trusted anyone," Mincio murmured, her fingers dancing across the terminal, isolating the server Han was using. "Not me, not his loyal soldiers, not even his own shadow. Until you. What did you do to him, Maid?" Amara didn't look away from the code. She was already tunneling into Han's private network, using her own old security bypass methods, refined over years of cleaning Jaewon's messes. "I think I reminded him what it's like to be seen." Mincio stopped typing for a moment, a rare, genuine smile touching her lips. "He needs that. God, he needs that. He's been trapped in that monster's armor for too long." They successfully bypassed Han's encryption, flooding their screens with his communications history. The next 10 minutes were a blur of tracing financial transactions, coded messages, and security logs. Amara's brow furrowed. "Wait, he's not working for the syndicate." Mincio leaned in, her smile vanishing. "What do you mean? He just offered Jaewon to them." "Look here." Amara highlighted a string of wire transfers. "These aren't payments to the syndicate. These are payments from their accounts, to offshore shells. He's been embezzling from the serpent leaders for years. Millions. $500 million, maybe more." Mincio swore softly. "He didn't want my evidence against the syndicate. He wanted to destroy it, to make sure no one saw his name pop up during a potential investigation." Amara nodded grimly. "His plan was to use Tanner Reyes and my stolen code to crash Valkyrie Tech, frame Jaewon as the syndicate traitor and the failed businessman, and then disappear with the $500 million before the serpent leaders realized their money was gone." The implication was staggering. Han was about to betray everyone, Jaewon, the syndicate, and his own men. "We have the proof," Mincio said, slamming her fist on the desk. "We have everything, but we can't get it out in time. If we post it publicly, the syndicate will kill Jaewon and us before the police even show up." Amara stood up, her legs surprisingly steady. The trembling was gone, replaced by a deep, terrifying certainty. "I'm going back," she stated, grabbing the phone Jaewon had given her. Mincio stared at her like she was insane. "That is suicide. They will kill you the moment you step into that building. Chisholm will do worse." Amara met her gaze, her dark eyes blazing with a resolve Jaewon himself would have admired. "Then I will die fighting for someone who believed in me when no one else did." She was done running, done hiding. The timid maid who fled Lagos was dead. This woman, Amarachi Okafor, was a warrior. "I'm done running from betrayal. I'm done being invisible. That man gave me my life back, even if it was a life I hated at first. Now I'm going to save his." Mincio searched her face. Then slowly, a deep respect bloomed in her eyes. She grabbed a simple military-grade thumb drive from her pocket. "Fine, but you don't go empty-handed. This has all the evidence. Han's accounts, the embezzlement proof, and a backdoor to their communications hub. Upload this to the main server when you get there." Mincio took Amara's hand, clasping it firmly. "And Amara, welcome to the family." Amara took a taxi back to the building, but she didn't use the dark tunnels. She walked through the front door of Valkyrie Tech's lobby like she owned the place. On the roof, Chisholm caught her image on a small security feed. "She came back? Is she insane?" he yelled, looking at Han. But Amara was not alone. Mincio had been busy during their hacking session. As Amara walked through the lobby, security guards in Valkyrie Tech uniform, men Han thought were on his side, suddenly surrounded his remaining mercenaries on the ground floor. Jaewon was a brutal boss, yes, but he inspired a fierce loyalty in the few who truly knew him. These men were orphans and outcasts he had given purpose to. Han had only promised them money. On the roof, Jaewon, kneeling in the cold rain, heard the sudden confused shouting from the lower floors. Then Han's phone buzzed violently. "What is this?" Han looked at his screen, his face turning grey. "Security breach. My Swiss accounts are frozen. Police en route? What did you do, Jaewon?" Jae-won laughed through his bloodied teeth, the sound raw and victorious. You made one mistake, Han. What's that? Jae-won lifted his chin, his eyes locking onto the camera he knew Amara could see. You underestimated a woman who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Then, a moment later, Amara's voice, amplified and echoing through the roof's loudspeaker system, a voice now steady and ringing with power, cut through the rain. Game over, Director Han. And Chisholm? Amara's voice hardened to ice. This is for Lagos. The chaos below had reached the roof. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Han's mercenaries were distracted, their loyalty dissolving as they saw their leaders panic. Amara stepped out onto the roof landing, the thumb drive held high like a weapon of mass destruction. She wore the clothes Jae-won had given her, a simple black suit, but she looked more dangerous than anyone on the roof. Chisholm moved toward her, his expression a mixture of disbelief and cunning. Baby, you don't understand what you're doing. We can still be partners. We can run this together. Don't call me that, Amara spat, taking another step forward. You lost that right when you sold my soul. The distraction was all Jae-won needed. With a feral roar, he snapped the cheap plastic zip ties on his wrists, a trick learned in a childhood spent in the dark. He surged to his feet, a blur of wounded muscle and cold rage, taking down two of Han's closest guards with ruthless efficiency. The rooftop erupted into a desperate, messy fight. Jae-won's initial sacrifice had bought Amara her window. Amara didn't hesitate. She dodged the flailing mercenaries and sprinted toward the rooftop main communications terminal, the access point for the entire Valkyrie network. Han saw her intention and reacted instantly. He snatched a gun from a fallen guard and leveled it, not at the fighting men, but at the unarmed woman at the terminal. Jae-won saw it too. He roared, a sound of pure primal warning. Han! Han faltered for a critical half-second. He turned the gun slightly toward the source of the roar, Jae-won, the man who had always been his target. In that split second, a bullet cracked through the air. Not from Han's gun. Han screamed as the weapon was shot clean out of his hand, clattering harmlessly across the wet concrete. Hey, asshole! Remember me? Minseo walked out of the stairwell, her small frame radiating lethal capability. She was holding a sleek black pistol with the practiced stance of someone who had done this many times before. The missing sister wasn't just a hacker, she had clearly been former military, or at least fiercely trained. Amara plunged the thumb drive into the terminal. Fingers flying, Amara executed Minseo's script. A cascade of data was unleashed. Han's embezzlement records, his coded agreements with Tanner Reyes, the proof that he, not Jae-won, was the Serpent Syndicate's true betrayer. The data went everywhere, to the syndicate leader's encrypted tablets, to the Seoul Police Department's fraud unit, to every major media outlet, and directly to Valkyrie Tech's governing board. Simultaneously. Remote login from his hideout, Tanner Reyes watched his entire future evaporate. You brilliant bitch, he swore. He furiously tried to initiate a final scorched earth wipe of all Valkyrie servers. Too late. Amara smiled at the monitor, a terrifying predator's grin. She had already locked him out, using her own old security signature against the key he had stolen. That's for stealing my work, and for underestimating a girl from Lagos. Chisholm, seeing his last chance for glory vanish, tried to slip away toward the fire escape. Minseo blocked his path, pistol still lowered but ready. You broke her once, she said softly, her voice ice. Try again. I dare you. Chisholm whimpered, realizing he was trapped between the enraged brother and the avenging sister. Jae-won reached Amara, pushing aside the terminal to pull her into his arms. He was wounded, bruised and bleeding, but alive. You came back, he rasped into her hair. Always. Amara clung to him, tears finally mixing with the rain. I'll always come back for you. Their first real kiss was desperate, grateful and transformative. The kind of kiss that didn't just speak of love, but of two souls finding sanctuary in each other after a lifetime of war. Loud, heavy footsteps on the roof signalled the arrival of the final, decisive players, the Serpent Syndicate's elite enforcers. They hadn't come for Jaewon, they had come for the traitor. Han, bloody and defeated, watched them approach. He realised his fate was sealed, not by the police, but by the underworld he tried to rob. "Jaewon, please," Han pleaded, dropping to his knees. "We were brothers." Jaewon looked down at him, his face utterly cold. "Brothers don't betray each other. You taught me that." Han was dragged away, his fate a painful certainty. Chisholm, pale and defeated, was swiftly arrested by the uniformed police who were now swarming the roof, charged with intellectual property theft and fraud. His billions had become jail time. Valkyrie Tech was saved. The attackers were defeated. The truth was revealed. But the cost was high. Jaewon's ties to the underworld, though severed, were now complicated by a public display of violence and betrayal. Minseo stood between her brother and Amara, her eyes hard. "Time to choose, brother, the Syndicate or your future." Jaewon looked at Amara, her face streaked with tears and rain, her eyes shining with fierce love. His choice was already made. "The future," he said. "A clean one." 3 months later. The scent of roasting garlic and kimchi filled the air, a domestic fragrance utterly foreign to Jaewon's past life. He and Amara no longer lived in the fortress-like mansion. They had moved to a modern, warm penthouse overlooking the Han River. He'd traded steel walls for glass, and isolation for intimacy. Jaewon's transformation was complete. Valkyrie Tech was now fully legitimate, an industry leader in global security, no longer a front for illegal operations. Using Minseo's evidence, the Syndicate's darkest secrets, Jaewon had negotiated a clean exit from the underworld, a move no one thought possible. He was still powerful, immensely wealthy, but the darkness had lifted. He watched Amara expertly flip a pancake, an act of simple normalcy that fascinated him. "You changed me," he said, moving to stand behind her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Made me want to be someone worthy of you, someone who wouldn't drag you back into the shadows." Amara's new life was a symphony of fulfillment. She was the chief technology officer of Valkyrie Tech, earning the respect she had always deserved. More importantly, her mother had been flown to Seoul, finally receiving the best medical care available. Amara's original breakthrough software was finally credited to her, patents in hand. She also spent her evenings teaching coding fundamentals to groups of young immigrant women in Seoul, giving them the tools she'd once hidden. Their relationship was built on a foundation of shared trauma and unwavering trust. They were learning to be normal, cooking together, arguing over morning coffee and laughing, something Jaewon hadn't done since childhood. He was learning to trust that vulnerability wasn't weakness. She was learning she deserved a love that didn't demand she hide her brilliance. "You two are disgustingly cute," Minseo announced, walking into the kitchen for their weekly dinner, already reaching for a pancake. 6 months later, Amara found herself standing in the humid heat of Lagos, Nigeria, at the threshold of the bustling internet cafe where her journey had begun. Jaewon stood beside her, looking out of place in his tailored suit, but perfectly content. Inside, Amara was teaching a dozen wide-eyed young Nigerian girls to code. Jaewon watched, completely mesmerized by the woman whose hands once cleaned his floors, now sparking genius in others. "You never stop being brilliant," he told her later, taking her hand as they walked out into the busy street. "You just needed someone to see it." "We saw each other," she corrected, squeezing his hand. "That's what matters." He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her temple. "The maid who saved a monster." She smiled, sunlight catching the gold dust in her hair. "The monster who saved the maid right back." Some love stories start with a fairy tale. Theirs started with code, danger, and 2 broken people who refused to stay broken. And in the end, the black maid from Lagos didn't just save a billion-dollar company, she saved the man everyone thought was beyond saving. Because sometimes, the most impossible thing isn't hacking a system, it's hacking into someone's guarded heart.